What's up everyone, I'm ByuN. This is game 4 of Stats versus ByuN. Stats is currently up 2-1 in this best of 5, so if he wins this game, he'll win the series. This is Stats, the current GSL champion down in the bottom right of Abyssal Reef. He's facing off against the man whose title he took, although he didn't beat him in the finals, he just usurped his crown. It is ByuN, the Puppy Terran. The guy who won the GSL at the end of last year. Stats, of course, won the GSL at the beginning of this year. The GSL is the best tournament in the world where all of the best Korean players play, casted by the best two casters, Tasteless and Artosis. If you don't know what that is and you watch my videos, I don't know how, I talk about it in almost every single video, because it really is the haunt of where all the best players come to play. Sure, you come to ByuN's channel for StarCraft 2 action that's very good just like this, but these players establish names for themselves in the GSL. Without the GSL, ByuN and Stats really wouldn't even be ByuN and Stats. ByuN has been competing in the GSL for years and years. He was really in the GSL since the very beginning, when Terran was very rush-based, a very aggressive race. As we see, Stats had his patrol points a bit out of whack there and allowed ByuN to get his expansion down. ByuN back in the day was a really cheesy player, but years and years went by and he continued to improve, rounded out his macro game, and at the end of the last year he was the best player on the planet. He took that really crisp, brutal marine micro that he really abused people with 1 and 2 base builds, and combined it with the ability to macro very well and do 3 base plus builds, you know, full-fledged macro games. And he's going to find the probe there is ByuN. Great move there from the Puppy Terran, and he's going to look for proxied structures here. This is pretty normal. If you get early scouted, it's a pretty good idea to look for proxied structures, and ByuN does that. And since he knows an Adept is coming or is already out, he's just going to leave his Reaper at home momentarily and then send it across map to see what Stats has. A lot of times you see that where people who have played so many games know like these tiny little timings. Like ByuN basically knew right there if he chilled with his Reaper for 1 more second, if the Adept was coming it would have hit. We can see Stats is equally prepared with his early game units. But ByuN is going to slip in the base here, very tricky, as Reapers are slippery units. And the Reaper will get mowed down as it runs off the cliff like a buffalo. And did ByuN see it? Yes, he did. He saw the Stargate. So what does that mean? It means that ByuN can probably guess an Oracle is coming. So what's the response for that? Well, Widow Mine's one-shot Oracles, and ByuN is going to hide a Widow Mine in the middle of the map here. Notice there's no turrets. If we go to production, he does not have an eBay. He's doing the variation on that 1-1-1 build that is basically a Widow Mine drop. So the first Oracle is going to come out here for Stats. Now Stats isn't really going to expect to see a Widow Mine in the middle of the map. You probably won't even be watching his Oracle. But here comes the mine. He sees it. Oh, he was watching, but boom. There it goes. So great anticipation there by ByuN. And that is a huge move, because it looks like ByuN's probably going to go into some kind of 2 base push. That's the standard for the meta right now in PvT. TY likes to do lifts here and lift off multiple times and get combat shield and stem at the same time. But ByuN has a Widow Mine drop here and no detection is out for Stats. So if ByuN is decisive and gets a drop in here, it can do damage. But ByuN, ooh, he kind of turns back. He's a little indecisive and he runs away, has to burrow 1 mine, the other one gets picked up, and suddenly Stats has held this very well. Of course, the Widow Mine will one-shot an Oracle but not a Phoenix, and ByuN's drop really gets snuffed out there. So what you saw there was, even though ByuN was able to kill that Oracle to limit the detection, as we see, he's going to run over here with some Marines, but without a medevac, these Marines aren't really a threat. Adepts can pretty much take them alone, but they're not even going to really have to fight alone, as the Oracle's going to come over too. So an odd decision there by ByuN. He makes a brilliant call to kill the Oracle mid-map with great Widow Mine placement, but then he separates his Marines from his Widow Mine and attacks the 3rd base with Marines and Marines with no combat shield, upgrade, or stim, or medevac are actually pretty bad, whereas if you take 6 Marines, couple them with a mine and a medevac, as this just has 1 kill. Of course, Stats has been watching it. But whenever you take that situation where you're making the Protoss player have to try to kill units that are being healed, which are obviously way harder to focus down and actually kill, and then of course you throw the detection in, it's significantly harder to deal with than, okay, there's a medevac coming in at a really obvious spot, and then there's 6 Marines. I mean, 6 Marines without stim, they could sit here and shoot at this Nexus for like 30 seconds and not kill it. So I don't really understand why ByuN chose to split his units up in that way, but Stats did a very good job defending. Usually whenever Protoss loses their initial Oracle, it's very tricky because obviously not only do they not have the tagging ability or the damage ability, but they lose that detection. Which whenever I say tagging ability, I know it's the same as the detection ability, but I mean like that. Using it as a way to tag the army. And tagging the army is so good against a player like ByuN. ByuN thrives on multitask, and he thrives on drop play. He thrives on catching your army out of position and catching you off guard. If you always have vision of his army, then it's obviously extremely difficult to be caught off guard. So Stats sees this push as plain as day, and this is why Revelation is so good. Stats has had 20 seconds to prepare for this. He's been sitting here the whole time knowing what's coming. He has his Mothership Core in position. Notice his whole army is perfectly here to defend, and ByuN can't do anything. His medevacs were tagged. The tag just ended, the Revelation. But now Stats is going to bring this big air army around and try to tag again. Now let's look at Stats' vision. Boom, tag. Okay, what does Stats see? He sees ByuN's army, and he sees the fact that ByuN does not have a third because of that adept. Now ByuN is in this weird spot where he really wants to do damage on 2 bases here. I hesitate to call it an all-in, but he's delayed a lot of stuff. He's behind on tech, he's behind on bases. He really has to do damage here, and he can't even move and be aggressive because he's getting tagged. There it is again, another tag. And this is making ByuN move slow as Christmas, and because he's been forced to move so slow due to tagging, Adept Shades might come forward. They don't, they get cancelled. But Stat sees exactly what he has, and because the Protoss is continuing to tag the Terran's push has been severely slowed down, and I think at this point Stat says, okay, well I've delayed you for almost a minute now, I have enough, and here come the Shades, here come the Phoenix, and the Phoenix scream forward and pick up the Widow Mines, as Stats is basking in a moment of victory here. And even though the Liberators and Mines came down, the Phoenix really did a good job of limiting the damage those non-bio units could do. And the Phoenix comes over, picks off one of the Medis, and ByuN is going to have to kill like 15 workers here to make this worth it. And of course he's not going to do that versus Stats. More damage being attempted at the 3rd base, but Stats has it, guys. With this many Phoenix, it's actually pretty damn easy to defend against someone doing a push like this. Lots of Resonant Glaive Adepts too. So right now, let's just take stock of what's happened. Sure, a few workers have died, so they're a little close to even. The 3rd base has just finished for ByuN, but the 3rd base is blocked, and there's a huge counterattack coming for Stats. If we go to units, it's pretty tricky for ByuN. He only has 2 Liberators and 6 Mines. Now these 6 Mines will be decent, so let's see what happens here. As ByuN is actually trying to take his 3rd out here, another Revelation goes down, and that's bad because all the Mines have been spotted. And here come the Adepts. I think the Phoenix might come in again too. All the Adepts come forward. ByuN tries to stutter step back, but he has less bio than the Protoss has Adepts, which is never good. And Stats is going to rip through ByuN here and possibly even take the series right here. As another Widow Mine comes down, 2 of them in fact, but the Adept Shade forward, the Widow Mines get picked up by the Phoenix, and that's just beautiful micro, as it looks like the Protoss player will be able to crush through here, as this wall makes things temporarily tricky, but so many workers have gone down, and if it seems like I'm calling it early, it's because you've forgotten about the bases. This one is alive and kicking for the Protoss, and the tech here, the Protoss has the complete advantage. He has the ability to make better upgrades. The Resonant Glaive Adepts and Phoenix simply outtrade the bio at this point. ByuN really committed to 2 base aggression, and stats completely slowed him down, as though ByuN's push was the German army advancing towards Moscow in 43, and I think ByuN will tap out here pretty quick, and he does. So if you enjoyed that, make sure you subscribe.